Washington, the McLaughlin Group, the American original. For over 3 decades, the sharpest minds, best sources, hardest talk.
Issue 1, shellacking 2.
I've heard your concerns. I've made them my own. You will be heard in Washington.
Republicans will indeed be heard in Washington. The GOP won big on Tuesday. They bolstered their majority in the U.S. House and are on track to hold a proportion of seats not seen since 1947. And in the U.S. Senate, where Democrats hold a majority, 53 seats, to Republicans 45, the GOP routed the Democrats from control. Here's a sampling from crucial battleground states like North Carolina, where Republicans scored.
My name is Tom Tillis, and I'm the next United States Senator from the state of North Carolina.
Like Colorado, another Republican win.
It is time for a new way forward.
Like Iowa, where the first female senator ever in that state was elected. The Republican self-described hog castrator, Joni Ernst.
But thanks to all of you, we are heading to Washington. And we are going to make them squeal.
On Friday, Republican candidate Ed Gillespie conceded the hard-fought Virginia Senate race to incumbent Democrat Mark Warner. So Virginia stays Democratic as it now stands. Republicans have won 7 seats, bringing the new Senate breakdown to 52 Republicans, 44 Democrats, and 2 independents, with 2 races undecided, Alaska and Louisiana. Question, was this election a referendum on Barack Obama? Pat Buchanan.
John, that's exactly what it was. Barack Obama was rejected and repudiated. If he had been Prime Minister of Great Britain, considering all the losses of seats he had, he would have resigned by now and he would be gone. But this city is somewhat in denial. They say, you know, the country has told the Republicans to go back to Washington and work with Barack Obama. The country said the exact opposite. They rewarded Republicans for standing up and hammering Obama repeatedly. They punished Democrats for working with Obama. So I think if there's any mandate here, it is for Republicans to go back and put forward their own positive agenda based on their own principles.
All right, with that, let's go to this. Okay, the Republican agenda.
We're going to function. This gridlock and dysfunction can be ended.
Republican leaders have come up with an ambitious legislative agenda for next year's 114th Congress. Among the big-ticket items Republicans expect to pass are 1, a major overhaul of the tax code, 2, a 10-year plan to balance the federal budget, 3, a stiff revision of the Affordable Care Act, and 4, approving the long-delayed Keystone XL oil pipeline. And there is this Mitch McConnell promise.
Let me make it clear there will be no government shutdowns and no default on the national debt.
President Obama says he welcomes the Republican initiatives, but that he will veto any legislation that does not conform to his agenda. Question, when it comes to domestic policy, who is in the driver's seat, the president or the Congress? Eleanor Clift.
Well, the Congress will be initiating, but the president is going to be a very strong backseat driver. He's not going to sign anything that compromises or really undermines the Affordable Care Act. He can probably take the Keystone pipeline. It's still in litigation. Let's see what happens with that. But the strongest thing that came through in this election is dissatisfaction with the way Washington works. And if the Republicans do what Pat's suggesting, just hew to their hardline agenda, they're going to throw away whatever mandate they have, and the Democrats will be in a much stronger position in 2016. There are things that the president and this Congress can do. President leaves for China this weekend. A trade deal will happen. Infrastructure, which the parties have traditionally always agreed on. So I think they can get some work done. And frankly, I think the gridlock for the last 4 years has been so terrible that I've made the pivot. Bring in the new faces. They're going to shake it up. We're going to see what happens. And, I think, when things look the worst in politics on your side, sometimes there's great opportunity. I think there's opportunity here for this president and for the Republicans as well.
You think you're overdoing it? You think this is too much of a concession on your part?
It's not a concession. It's a recognition of reality, and it's maneuvering to get what you can. Look, Mitch McConnell was in Washington decades before Barack Obama showed up, and he'll be here long after Barack Obama leaves. So I don't underestimate McConnell, and I think he can stand up to the more extreme voices in his caucus. I'm not sure about John Boehner.
Okay, Vox Populi.
CBS's exit polling showed that 65% of voters say, quote, the country is on the wrong track, unquote. And only 44% say they approve of the job the president is doing. Exit polls also show that the economy was the number one issue for 45% of the voters, and 78% said they are concerned about the direction, so reports the Washington Morning Update.
Question, should President Obama reorganize his White House team to show that he gets the message? I ask you, Tom Rogan.
I think he should shake up his team, not just to show that he gets the message, but more to show that he can actually institute some changes in policy, because the record of the past 6 years of his presidency has been such that people have lost trust. He's suffered a very stinging rebuke in the midterms, and if he gets rid of people like Valerie Jarrett, who are real narrow populists, partisan populists in the sense of White House control, he could perhaps broaden the perspective. I mean, President Bush did this in 2006 at the height of difficulties in the war in Iraq, and that allowed him to bring some salvage to that he brought in Robert Gates, that he allowed a broader thinking to come into the portfolio. But the president is known, the current president is known for having a very insular attitude, and I think that is deeply problematic, both foreign policy, domestic policy. He needs to broaden his perspective.
Does John Podesta figure in that insularity of the president?
I think he does. I think John Podesta has been pretty keen on pushing the president to take executive actions, which I think it would be very damaging for the president if he's moving towards legacy. Because look, Republicans realize that going towards 2016, they have to show a different brand. I mean, Senator McConnell has said there's going to be no more shutdowns. There's a representation there that they know they need to rebuild the brand. Republicans and Democrats are seen toxic.
There's no man. Go ahead.
Well, I think the issue that is going to continue, in my judgment, is the economy. And the Republicans have got to come forth with something that makes sense, makes economic sense compared to what they have, in a sense, not been able to persuade the Obama administration to bring to the public. So I think if they get a series of legislative programs that really begin to deal with the issue of the economy, in particular the jobs issue, which is very, very weak, I think they will be able to gain a lot of credibility. And if they don't, they'll just be another...
There is common ground, John, I think, in some things. Everybody agrees the corporate tax rate at 35% is absurd. Now, the president's going to have to come toward the Republicans, and Republicans will give up some of these exemptions, deductions. But the $2 trillion that's sitting over there abroad, we all agree it ought to be brought home. What is the tax rate that will bring it home?
Right, and
we disagree. They could use the money, some of the money for that, for infrastructure. There are areas where you can find common ground.
And they could have done that last year, or earlier this year, but they didn't want to give the president. They didn't want to give the president a victory.
They got his attention.
Now the pressure is on them. They've got to perform.
But he's going to have to move in their direction.
Sure, they have to move in his direction too. It takes two. I want to say about the shaking up of the White House. My progressive friends lament the fact there's no Donald Rumsfeld that this president can fire. He's not going to let Valerie Jarrett go. I mean, and she's, well, maybe that's what you think, but that's not what the president thinks. But
that's what business
the problem with this White House is they don't have very many big ticket names that attract a lot of attention. Valerie Jarrett, I doubt, has a lot of name recognition.
What about
around
Susan
the country.
Rice?
She's no Donald Rumsfeld.
National security team is a disaster.
I wouldn't agree with that as well, and she's not going anywhere either.
The economic anxiety is a top concern in Tuesday's elections. Unemployment rate 5.8% from 5.9%, the lowest since 2008. October jobs, 214,000 jobs, the healthiest in 8 years. The Labor Department August and September adjustment added 31,000 jobs. Total jobs in 9 straight months, 200,000 jobs. Exports fell in September, widening the trade deficit. 60% of voters thought the economy was stagnating or worsening. 1/3 that it was improving. I'll read it again. 60% of voters thought the economy was stagnating or worsening. 1/3 that it was improving. Federal Reserve will end its bond purchases program, lower interest rates to stimulate economic growth. Average hourly pay rose 0.3%, benefiting the wealthiest. Average income grew 10% from 2010 for the wealthiest 1/10. For everyone else, income stagnated or declined. Over the past 6 months, the economy has grown at a 4.1%. U.S. manufacturers are expanding at the fastest pace in 3 years.
Well,
We're going to be tested
there were
on
a lot
this.
of there were a
Are you
lot
going to
of
be
good
tested on that?
yeah, there were a lot of good numbers there, but the problem is that ordinary people aren't feeling it in their everyday lives, and these are stagnating wages, a gap between what the CEO makes and what the worker makes, and these are problems that were existed before this president took office, but the expectation was that he would be able to address them. He hasn't been able to, in part because Congress won't let him do anything.
Let me let Maud in here, because Maud has an entirely different review or interpretation of the economy today than it might be given people to believe from some of what I've just read.
Yes, I do. The economy, in my judgment, is a lot weaker than it looks, okay? Number one, you have had, in the last half a dozen years, a drop of 7% in real income. And the president himself said, you know, people are employed, but their real pay is not going anywhere. If anything, it's going down. You look at the number of jobs and where they're coming from. First place, the real unemployment rate is much higher than the 6.1% that they talk about. It doesn't include people who are part-time workers, which is almost 8 million people. It doesn't include people who have just given up looking for a job. If you add those together, the real unemployment rate is closer to 20% than it is to what it is now. And everybody knows it. And real wages, in the last 7 years, family incomes have gone down by, adjusted for inflation, have gone down by 7% from now to 2007. Now that's a huge drop for the American
And you got a trade
public.
deficit that's running at $500 billion a year for the 40th straight year, which is hollowing out the American economy. And Republicans are talking about fast track and letting the president get a new trade deal with the Chinese.
All of that is just peanuts. It's just peanuts.
You got to measure
Got a
the
national
raise the
debt,
minimum wage
a national
passed.
debt of $17 trillion, now pushing $18 trillion.
Rising at 500.
What?
I will have to pay it off.
What, you mean because of your generation?
Don't
The
worry.
deficit was not an issue in this
inflate our way
election.
out
And
of
no
it.
one even alludes to the role of the national debt in making decisions
They
in
had-
Congress on
I
this
got
or
a
that.
deficit of
Exit
500
question
billion
on
a year.
on a political Richter scale of 0 to 9.5, the strongest earthquake ever recorded in Chile in 1960. How much did Tuesday's midterm elections convulse the American political landscape? 0 to 9.5.
I think it's pretty close to a 9. It was I mean, the Republicans got numbers now they didn't have since 1929.
Right. I put it at a 7. The electorate was 75% white. You're not going to see that in 2016. There'll be another earthquake in 2016.
8.
8.
Yeah, I'm 9. I think this was an absolute earthquake in terms of American politics.
I'll climb that up to a 9.5.
Chilly.
Can you live with that?
I don't think it's accurate, but I can live with it.
Okay. So it's what kind of character you have. Don't forget the McLaughlin Group has its own website, and you can watch this program or earlier programs on the web at any time from anywhere in the world. McLaughlin.com. Could anything be simpler? McLaughlin.com or more edifying?